Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's webinar, From Learning Chaos to Workforce Capability, How Enterprises Actually Build Skills at Scale. Presenting today's topic is Shilpa, Microsoft certified trainer and subject matter expert MCT and AI with years of experience in Microsoft Dynamics, Copilot, solution architecture, consulting, and artificial intelligence. She helps organizations lead in an AI-driven world and translate innovation into impact. Please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. And today's presentation is from the security practice area. And before we begin, a quick note about N+, a platform designed to enable learning without limits. N+ offers over 200 certification-ready, on-demand courses across AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and data with self-paced learning and shareable certifications accessible on any device. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. In today's session, we'll explore why training investments often fail to build real workforce capability and how role-based, governed learning models help enterprises scale skills effectively. Now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic. Hey Shilpa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tracy, for handing over the session to me. So welcome everyone from learning chaos to workforce capability, how enterprises actually build skills at scale. So today, organizations are not facing a learning problem. They are facing thousands of courses, countless AI tools, endless webinars. Yet the question leaders still ask is simple. Are we actually building real skills? There is information overload from every section, but the reality is this. Access to learning is everywhere, but capability is still rare. Companies invest heavily in training, but without alignment to their business goals. Role-based skills are numb and real-world applications, learning remains just content and nothing apart from it. So the enterprises that are winning today are doing something different. They are moving from random learning to a structured capability building scenario. They connect learning to the roles, outcomes, and measurable impact. They combine AI, platform, and practical experience to turn knowledge into leading the organizations into their performance. So today, we will explore how to lead the organizations that are transforming learning chaos into workforce capabilities and how enterprises are actually building the skills at scale and not just talking about it. So let's begin. And before we go ahead, now that we have set the context, let me quickly walk you through today's agenda. First, we will be starting with the foundation of the enterprise upskilling challenge. Then, why organizations are investing more in learning than ever before. And yet, still they are struggling to build the right capabilities in their workforce. So then we'll be talking about the second part, that is understanding the learning chaos and its impact. The explosion of tools, courses, certifications, and AI platforms is happening all across. And the real impact this has on employees and on leaders as well. Along with that, we'll understand why traditional training models often fail in today's fast changing environment. Now, that's a big question to think of. And next, we'll explore a capability driven approach to learning, okay, where the focus shifts from simply delivering training to actually building a measurable skills aligned with business and the outcomes. After that, we'll look at how to, um, I would say how high performing enterprises design their learning models, including the governance structure, the visibility, the scalable investments, and the implications for organizations trying to scale skills effectively. And finally, we'll discuss a practical path forward, focusing on the governance, the visibility into the skills, and making scalable investments so that truly that can, strengthen the workforce capability. So let's begin with the first challenge. That is, foundation of enterprise upskilling challenges. Now imagine this for a moment. It's a large scale enterprise that invests millions in trainings every year. Employees have access of thousands of courses, AI tools, certifications, and learning platforms all over there. The dashboards look impressive. Completion rates are high. Learning hours are growing day by day. But then the CEO asks one simple question. Do we actually have the skills needed for the next 3 years? And suddenly the room goes silent because despite all the learning, no one can clearly map training to real capability. Employees are learning, but not always the right skills at the right point of time. Now, what happens is the the skills are there. No one is clearly telling exactly that what is needed. How are the, what is the clarity? So things, the skills at the right time, at the right roles. And that is where the foundation of the enterprise upskilling challenge comes up. Okay. It's not about lack of content. It's about lack of clarity, alignment, and measurable capabilities. Organizations today don't suffer from learning shortage. They suffer from a skill translation problem, turning the learning into real workforce capability. And that is exactly the challenge we are going to unpack today. And after that, we're going to talk about the the more sharper skills for it. So let me build on the story we just discussed, because this leads us to what many organizations are now calling the upskilling paradox. Okay, enterprises today are investing more in learning than ever before in new platforms as well. There are AI powered tools, there are certifications and partnerships with multiple training providers these days. On paper, it looks like the workforce should be more skilled, and the the capability should be very much high, they should be very much growing, and everything should be really going well. So the workforce should be skilled than ever is their game. But here's the paradox. Even with these large, evolving, much faster, than the traditional scaling cycles, still with large investments, with large workforce capabilities, things are not working. Why? Because technology is evolving much faster than the traditional training cycles. By the time a program is designed, approved, and delivered, the tools, the platforms, or the skills it was built for, may already have changed. And at the same time, another challenge quietly grows inside the organization. That is fragmented learning ecosystems. Over time, enterprises accumulate multiple learning platforms. And what happens is with this multiple learning platforms, there are like so many vendors, different vendors, separate certification programs, and thousands of pieces of content scattered all across. Each team adopts its own way, you know, they adopt its own tools and their own training resources for that matter. Now, you know, it becomes a learning maze and it's a puzzle which everybody is trying to solve. Employees don't know where to start. Leaders cannot see which skills truly exist in the organization, and learning efforts become inconsistent and difficult to measure. So instead of building the capability, organizations often end up managing the content overload and disconnected solutions. And that is where the real challenge begins, moving from fragmented learning to a structured capability building process. And that is what things are going on. Now, let's talk about another critical challenge organizations face today. That is measuring the capability. So, this much, that much, or how much. So, many leaders are investing heavily in training. Now, they are investing heavily in training programs, certifications, and digital learning platforms also. But when it comes to answering a simple question, is your workflows truly ready for the next technology shift? The answer is often unclear. Now, this is because the capability measurement is still very limited in most of the organizations. I'm sorry. Leaders can see, how many courses were completed or how many certifications were achieved, but they often lack the real visibility in the actual workforce. And this becomes a real risk when a new technology like AI platforms, cloud systems, or automation tools are deployed. Organizations assume employees are ready, but without clear capability insights, operational risks increase and adoption slows down. So this brings us to an important realization. Learning alone is not enough. Capability grows when learning is structured, governed, and connected to real business needs. When organizations align training with roles, with practical applications, and measurable outcomes. Learning moves from being just an activity to becoming a true driver of workforce capability and business impact. Let's pause on a common assumptions many organizations make. More training means more capability. I'm leaving a thought and leaving a second for you to understand that what it is talking about. You can go through the slide and understand that what enterprise often respond to skill gaps by adding more courses, more certification, more training hours, what it is, the training volume versus capabilities. The learning catalogs grow. Employees enroll in multiple programs and dashboards show increasing activity. But here's the reality. Training volume does not automatically translate into workforce capabilities. Completing courses or collecting certifications does not always mean employees are ready to perform effectively in real job situations because capability is not just about knowing something. It's about applying it in real world scenarios. And this is where, N plus comes in. This is where many traditional learning models fall short, but N plus excels in that. Like, for example, someone may earn a certification in cloud, AI, or cybersecurity, but when faced with a real deployment challenge, integrating systems, solving a live issues, or making critical decisions, those practical skills, my friend, may not be fully developed. And at N plus, we focus on developing those skills. This is why organizations are beginning, they're beginning to realize that true capability is built through applied learning, contextual experience, and real problem solving scenarios, not just through accumulating training hours or certificates. In other words, capability is proven in practice. And at N plus, every course is being associated with lots of hands-on practice, not just a learning portal. It's your capability builder portal. We are something which, you can trust blindly on. Now let's look why organizations need a more integrated approach to learning. As I said, true capability is not built in isolated training or just isolated training sessions. It develops when learning is embedded directly into everyday work. When employees can apply new knowledge in real tasks, practice continuously, and understand what performance is actually expected from them in their existing roles. So when learning is connected to workflows, real projects, and measurable outcomes, employees move from simply consuming the knowledge to building their real skills and confidence. That's when learning starts translating into real workforce capabilities. However, still many organizations still struggle because of the fragmented training environmentals. Now, what happens is there are lots of training environments. Different departments adopt different platforms, different vendors, and different programs. Over the time, this leads to duplicate training, disconnected content, and there are lots of inconsistent learning paths which doesn't flow together. And the challenge then becomes clear. Leaders cannot cannot confidently access that who is truly ready and who needs support or where the real skill gap exists. And when organizations cannot clearly measure the readiness, it introduces risk during technology adoption, transformation initiatives, and large scale deployments. This is why enterprises are now realizing that integrated, structured learning ecosystems are essential to building a reliable workforce capabilities. So it's important that you focus on that. Now let's understand learning chaos and its impacts. Now let's briefly, look at what learning chaos actually looks like inside a large organization. First of all, there is always a content overload. Employees have access to thousands of courses, thousands of platforms, and learning resources, but very little guidance on what is truly relevant for their roles. Second, learning often becomes tool driven, instead of capability driven. Teams adopt new platforms or, vendor solutions also, but these tools are not always connected to a clear skill strategy. Now, third, there is duplication and silos. Different departments run their own training programs. Operation is going in this direction, sales here, you know, and so many. And I can see the smiles on the faces coming in. So I can understand that you can imagine the situation very well in your organization as well. So, what it leads to is repeated efforts and inconsistent standards and fragmenting learning experiences across the organization. And finally, leaders struggle with visibility. They can't track course completions, but they cannot easily see which capabilities actually exist in the workforce. So they can see number of employees doing 10 courses, but they don't know whether the skill has been developed or not for which that course was assigned to them. All of this creates what we call a learning chaos, where learning activity is high for sure, but clarity on real capabilities remain low. And at N Plus, we focus only what matters to your role. We're going to give you those hands-on. We're going to give you those scenarios, those projects to work on, which is going to build that capability and not just add the content in your mind. So it's like fun and learn and then earn from your new roles with the Excel that you're going to have in yourself after coming to N Plus. Now let's look at two important characteristics of learning chaos in the large organizations. Okay. First is incompatible learning paths. I have personally experienced that. In many enterprises, role based training is designed by different teams and, you know, departments independently. Now, while each program may be well intentioned, they are often created in isolation. The challenge is that in the real workplace, what happens in the real workplace? What goes on? In the real workplace, roles are highly interconnected. People collaborate across teams, across systems, and of course, and workflows also. But when their learning paths are not aligned, you know, employees develop different level of understanding, different tools of knowledge, and different processes. Like in this room, there are so many people here. Everybody's level of understanding would be different. So this creates friction when teams need to work together on the same project. And everybody of you sitting in this room must have faced that for sure when a task is assigned as a team and how many, frictions were there. Now, the second issue is related to the first one, is conflicting skill signals. Different teams often define skills and competencies in different ways. One department will consider somebody as ready, probably, that is more popular person, while another one may expect a completely different level of capability. Now, as a result, leaders are going to struggle to accurately access workforce readiness. Instead of having a clear, consistent view of skills across the organization, they see mixed signals and fragmented capability insights coming from different zones. And that is another learning chaos quietly impacting the enterprise performance. And that is the biggest issue because it is quietly eating like a slow poison. Okay. Now let's talk about something organizations often don't immediately see it. That is the hidden operational cost of fragmented learning ecosystems. So when training programs, platforms, and vendors grow independently across departments, do you think they're working for free? No, nobody works for free. Enterprise starts paying multiple times for similar content, similar tools, and certifications. What looks like investment in learning slowly becomes duplicated spending. This is also a productivity cost. Employees spend time navigating different platforms. They are actually searching for the right course, repeating the similar training often, in different teams. Now, instead of building that skills faster, and learning has become more time confusing and time consuming. And of course, it is what? It is a total chaos situation. It's like, you are wasting the most precious and the most valuable thing on earth which nobody can buy. That is time. So that is a hidden cost. That is a, delayed technology adoption. So when learning is fragmented, employees are not uniformly prepared, which slows down the deployments and increases the need for additional support and retrainings. So the real issue is not just, learning complexity. It's the operational inefficiencies and risks created by disconnected learning ecosystems. And that is why many enterprises are now shifting from fragmented learning training programs to a structured, capability driven learning models like N. Two more signs of learning chaos appear in how, learning paths and skills are defined. First is incompatible learning paths. In many organizations, role-based training is designed separately by, different sections. There is conflicting skills signals. The challenge is that employees are working in interconnected workflows. So mismatched learning experiences can create gaps between them. And that gap can stop them from collaborating. The same system, the same product is going to fail, which they would have collaborated with the right path, right? So the next chaos or the next issue is that the traditional training models often fail. Why? Now, let me share a very quick story that many enterprises can definitely relate to. Okay. So a company is there which, decides to prepare its workforce for a new technology rollout. Okay. And they organize a series of training sessions. Okay. First series and the next one and the next one. Employees attend workshops, they complete courses, they earn certificates. Everything looks successful on paper. But a few months later, when the technology is actually deployed, teams struggle. Employees remember parts of the trainings. They are not, you know, into that, but they haven't practiced it in real scenarios. So it's all on the content part. And, our brain is like a photogenic brain. We try to when the knowledge is fresh, it's all in front of us. But something which we have done practically with our own hands and own ears and solve that with our own mind, that remains with us for years and years. And that happens because traditional training enterprise often follows a series of learning or episodic learning model. Learning happens in occasional courses or events rather than a lifelong learning or a continuous skill development, which is the mission of N+. We at N+ vouch for lifelong learning. We say that lifelong learning is the real investment. Learning happens for every now and then. And in the fast changing technology environments, that approach simply cannot keep up. Another limitation is the lack of role based focus. sorry, training is often driven by individual interest or, as per the available resources. So what happens is your role expectations. Now, what happens is as a result, employees may learn interesting things, but not those things which their roles require actually. And that's why many organizations are now shifting from periodic training programs to continuous lifelong learning, role driven capability development. And that is the answer to the AI boom coming in from every section. And that is with that lifelong learning, we can actually tackle that no matter what challenge, whether it's a traditional training is inconsistent or whether, there are no strong systems, everything, there are different teams that create their own curriculum or, instructors vary in their expertise or assessment methods differ. Nothing matters if you have a strong determination and you have a platform like N Plus, which can actually help you. And at the same time, programs will focus heavily on the practical applications instead of, theory. It will be more of practice rather than just planning and talking. Employees may understand the concepts, but without hands-on application, often the bestest of the design course in the world fail because the hands-on is the actual training which the person or the learner can actually work on. So when you work with the technology, then you know the challenges. And when you work with the real world scenarios, you know what you can face in your real world day-to-day working as well. And that's important. Now let's talk about many organizations unknowingly fall into. That is the certification trap, right? Certifications are valuable, no doubt, because they validate your knowledge and foundational understanding. But in many cases, they measure what someone knows in theory, not necessarily how well they can apply that knowledge in real work environment. Like, for example, an employee may be certified in technology or platform, but when they face a real deployment scenario, they run away. Working within the company policies, existing architecture, or operational constants, the challenge becomes very different. This creates a mismatch with enterprise needs. Certified employees may have strong conceptual knowledge, no doubts they can talk about it, but they may still need more time for practical exposure to understand how systems can actually work. Okay, how the systems actually operate inside the organization. And the consequence is that companies believe capabilities exist because certifications are completed, but true job readiness still requires that conceptual experience and hands-on experience, which only the good platforms can provide. I would say which the structured platforms can provide. And there's also a risk, when organizations over rely on certifications as a primary measure of capability. So when it's like too much focus and um, it's just placed on earning certificates, resources often shift away from mentorship, hands-on practice, and real performance assessments, which are actually the critical tools, critical skills for building up that job readiness. Okay, so more effective approach is a balanced learning and from a platform like N plus, wherein we balance the learning with the right mix of, the content and the hands-on. So you have a content and you have a hands-on based on it, probably a use case or a case study and an application for a demo environment to work that without disturbing your actual workflow. So whether it is one course or the another, our experts are in such a way that they can design the entire course and customize it as per the needs of the learner. So we do not just go by one approach. We focus on the learner and the learner's ability and the asks about a course. And that's what N Plus is famous for. Now let's talk about a capability-driven approach to learning. Okay. Now let's shift a little perspective, from upskilling individuals to building an enterprise capability as a whole. Traditionally, organizations focus on sending employees to training programs and measuring success through course completions or the certifications. But leading enterprises are reframing the question. So instead of asking how many people completed training, they ask, do we have the capability required to deliver our business outcomes? Now that's the real question. Okay. Now let me share a quick use case here. Imagine uh, an organization implementing a new AI powered customer service platform. Okay. Now, in a traditional model, employees might simply take courses on AI fundamentals or the tool itself, right? But in a capability driven approach, learning is mapped directly to roles, customer support agents, and system administrators and managers, each with specific skills, and they have to demonstrate those skills. So agents practice using the AI systems in real scenarios. Administrators learn how to manage and monitor the platform, and leaders understand how to interpret insights for their better decision making. The focus shifts from training people to ensuring that actually organization develops the capability to run and sustain the technology effectively from the, the leadership role to the lowermost category role. Now that is called the real shift. A key principle of a capability driven learning model is that skills are built through practice and not instruction. Instead of stopping at courses or certifications, organizations reinforce learning through simulators, real projects, and hands on tasks integrated into daily workflows. When employees repeatedly apply that what they learn in real situations, knowledge turns into true capability. It gets into their daily workflow, daily systems. They don't just mug up things or mug up the steps. It's already inbuilt because they have already specified and practiced on hands-on scenarios. And that gets the true capability and the true confidence to work on their roles that they are. And those employees only grow better and in their roles for their future jobs as well. But capability building is, not only about the technical expertise. Modern workplace also require strong human skills, such as, communication, the biggest thing, decision making, another important aspect, and of course, collaboration between employees. Technology projects often succeed or even fail based on how well teams work together, solve problems, and make informed decisions. So, a capability driven approach develops both technical and human skills together. And at N plus, we focus on a you know, group teaching. So, and what happens is we will give you the activities which will bond between the teams. We'll not only technically train you, but also prepare to operate effectively in complex real world environments. And that also with a fun way to learn. Okay. And in many enterprises, employees are given access to thousands of courses. The bigger the exercise, bigger the enterprise, the bigger is the budgets for the trainings and bigger are the resources and knowledge pouring in from everywhere. While this definitely provides flexibility, it often leads to confusions and unfocused learning. So a role-based learning approach is different. Instead of just going and browsing a tool or a broad catalog, employees follow learning pathways designed specifically for the skills required in their role and their career stage as well. This ensures that learning is directly connected to the work they perform, to the work they actually work on. And to make this possible, organizations start with skill mapping and sequencing. They identify the critical roles, break down the responsibilities of those roles, those skills into practical learning journeys, and the result is much clearer. Employees know what to learn, when to learn it, and how it connects to their roles and performance altogether. Now, that gets a win win situation for everybody, for the enterprise as well. So, another key element of effectively capability building is the blended learning. Strong learning pathways combine multiple modalities. Theory for foundation understanding is required, of course. Hands on practice to build that real skill. Coaching and mentorship for the guidance. Assessments to measure your progress. And on the job application to reinforce learning in real work situations. And reinforcement learning, lifelong learning is our motto at Nplace. These combinations help transform knowledge into practical capabilities. So, when organizations design a role based learning pathways using this blended approach, the benefits become very, very clear. Employees no longer feel overwhelmed by endless course catalogs or those deadlines coming to complete that certification. Instead, they have clear direction on what skills to develop and how to progress in their roles. They look forward for the training time because they are, they are able to engage themselves, solve the real world problems, and take up that challenge, reducing that ambiguity and helping the employees to reach their proficiency faster and gain much better visibility into workforce capabilities. And that is the real benefit. That's the real win. Okay, so high performing enterprise learning models are the models which we focus on. Okay, now let's now look at what high performing enterprises do differently. First is they focus on integrated learning system. Instead of just managing multiple disconnected platforms, they would bring together the learning platforms, content, skill frameworks, and governance into a single cohesive learning architecture like N+. This creates a consistent experience for employees and give leaders a very clearer view of their workforce development. And the second key difference is how they measure the success. So traditional models, often lack to track the activity, such as the course completion or learning hours or the certifications earned. But high performing organizations go beyond that. They measure the capabilities and the readiness, asking questions like, are employees able to perform that critical tasks? Mhm. Are teams ready to support new technologies? Or is learning improving real performance outcomes? So, by focusing on readiness and performance matrix, these enterprises ensure that learning investments translate into actual workforce capability and business impact, not just the learning activity, which is being monotonous after a certain point of time. And another, practice we see in high performing enterprises, embedded learning directly into the workflows. So instead of separating learning from work, these organizations integrate it into their daily tasks and projects. So it becomes like a task for them to learn and to earn. Okay. So this means that, employees are continuously developing the skills while solving the real problems, which makes learning more practical and, of course, immediately applicable. And that is equally important for collaborative partnerships. So, successful capability building doesn't just sit only within the learning and development teams, or not just the L&D team doing all the tasks. It requires a strong collaboration between L&D, business leaders, and technology teams. So, when these groups work together, learning initiatives become closely aligned with the enterprise transformation goals, ensuring that the workforce development directly supports the business outcomes. And that is what N Plus does for you. Another, you know, important principle of enterprise capability building is continuous skill development across the employee life cycle. Now it starts it starts with a structured onboarding. So instead of just simply introducing policies or systems, you have to effectively onboard and I would say focus on the equipping employees with the essential skills, tools, and of course organization context they need from the very beginning. Now this can help a new hire become a productive person or a productive employee faster and understand how their roles contribute to the large business. From there, learning continues through embedded learning in daily workflows. Employees build skills through job aids, peer learning, micro learning, and hands-on practice while they're actually in their roles, while they're performing their roles only. And this approach ensures that learning is not a one-time event or just a test being cleared at one time, but a continuous process that is going to evolve as employees grow and responsibilities change as well. Because when you are going to grow, you're definitely going to get a better role and a better job. To sustain the capabilities, organizations also focus on skill reinforcement. Learning is strengthened to real world simulations, coaching, and reflection cycle, where employees apply what they have learned and they have received feedback on the learnings. And of course, it is a continuous improvement cycle, which is like never going to end. So, this helps ensure that skills are not forgotten but retained and applied in your real work situations. And also with the feedback, they are amplified and modified and improved again and again. And at the same time, enterprise design, advanced career pathways also. And of course, the learners, the employees, they move towards the deep specialization or leadership roles based on long-term learning skill that they have developed. And that's the next generation of experts and leaders that we develop at N+. Now comes a little bit of more of governance, visibility, and scalable investments. Okay. So the strategic importance of learning governance is that it should align with overall goals and strategies to maximize impact. There has to be decision which are right for the platform choices. As I said, there are so many platforms all across, but the right one will make the difference for you. So let's talk about the strategic importance of learning governance, right? So strong governance helps organizations maintain the right balance between the global consistencies and local flexibilities. And at the enterprise level, it ensures the clear policies, standards, and learning frameworks. And at the same time, regional teams can adopt to programs to you know to focus on local needs, regulations, and business priorities as well. Governance plays a very much key role into your work. And another important outcome of strong learning governance is visibility and predictable learning investments at scale. When organizations have clear governance and integrated systems, leaders gain better visibility. And, you know, that visibility comes into workforce skills, learning progress, and the capability gaps across the enterprises. So instead of guessing where the skills exist, they can make data driven decisions about workforce readiness. And at the same time, the visibility, this visibility that they have made to enables predictable and scalable investments in the learning. And that is where the unified skills come into the picture. Organization can plan training initiatives strategically for themselves. Okay. Now let me, illustrate this with a quick example for you. Just imagine a large organization preparing for multi-year cloud and AI transformation, which most of us are doing right now. In a traditional model, training decisions often they just happen reactively. When a new project starts, teams rush to find courses and certifications, and they all search all across the net, all across the market. But what is actually the need? Stop, you know, just focusing on or just running behind the bushes because it eats up your budgets. Your budgets are allocated on the spot with these suggestions. Learning becomes short term and fragmented. They adopt predictable learning investment models that are there, which are needed over the next 3 or 5 years. And, they plan learning investments in advance, which are aligned directly with the business strategy because they have the visibility into workforce skills. They can systematically develop that capability. Training the right roles at the right time with a structured learning pathway is the key to that. And the result is a systematic capability development. Now, instead of reacting to skill gaps during transformation, the workforce is prepared ahead of time and it enables a smoother deployment and stronger business outcomes for you. And that makes the difference. Now, that is the practical path forward for the enterprises, right? Let's look at where organizations should become or should begin rather when transforming their learning strategies. So, the first step is to identify the mission learning strategy. Okay. So instead of, trying to train everyone on everything, organization should focus on the roles that directly employ or, impacts the role that they are focusing on. Like, it should support the key transformation priorities, like such as, in the same example, cloud operations or cybersecurity or AI-driven systems. So, okay. So for prioritizing on these roles, enterprises ensure the learning investments are aligned with the most important outcome, that is the business outcomes. And the second step is to audit the existing learning landscape. Many organizations already have multiple, platforms, vendors, content, libraries, repositories, name it and they have it. And sometimes the skill frameworks are also in place. So conducting a clear audit is going to help you understand the existing learning landscape. As I said, they have everything, but conducting a clear audit can help you identify the gaps, the overlaps, and the redundancies. This visibility allows leaders to simplify the learning ecosystem and design a more structured, ability focused, capability focused approach to workforce development. And that is the need of the hour. Now, another important step in transformation is to define clear readiness outcomes. Organizations need to specify what employees should be able to demonstrate in practice, and it should be considered ready for their roles. So, instead of measuring only course completion, the focus shifts on capabilities, the performance, and the real task execution. And then comes the next step, that is vendor rationalization. Over the time, many enterprises accumulate multiple learning platforms, tools, and content providers. So, by consolidating and streamlining who's the best, can reduce the fragmentation and simplify the learning process and make that experience a wow experience for everyone. And of course, they can utilize their budgets also more efficiently, which is actually very crucial when it comes to the large cost. Okay. So, till the time I take a quick water break, why don't you just focus on what are the first 90-day action to build that momentum? Now, another critical step is the early phase is baseline measurement. Okay. Organizations need to capture the current level of skill readiness and existing capability gaps across the key roles. Now, this baseline becomes the benchmark that helps track progress and also demonstrate the impact of the transformation over the time. And at the same time, my friend, it is important to secure early wins. Quick success, such as faster onboarding, simplified learning content, a structured way of everything, or you can see that how beautifully the platforms is designed on. So, if a training platform can work on their own platform, just imagine what they would do for your workforce. So at 10 Plus, you can come and experience that with us. And, you can scale and strengthen your manpower, your support of your, skill building, skill development for your entire workforce, your entire enterprise. Now, there are some implications for enterprise leaders as well. And this transformation also has an important implication for L&D leaders. The role of L&D is evolving. Instead of primarily managing the courses and content libraries, L&D leaders must focus and must become the architects of enterprise capabilities. They should design the integrated learning ecosystems that can build the skills the organization truly needs. Equally important is cross-functional collaboration, right? So L&D can no longer operate in just isolation. By working closely with business leaders and technology teams, they can get the right mix. They can ensure the learning pathways are aligned with the real role requirements, operational challenges, and transformation priorities. And in this model at N+, L&D becomes a strategic partner in building the workforce capabilities. So not just a provider of training programs, we are a skill builder organization. So come to us and talk about it. And another key, implication I want to talk about for learning and development leaders is the responsibility for governance and quality assurance. L&D leaders must ensure consistency across the enterprise by setting the learning standards and governing the platforms, what is the usage and maintaining the quality in content, instructors, and the assessments all at the go. And this helps create a reliable and structured learning environment rather than, the fragmented training programs. And if you find all that at one place, what would you do? I think definitely enroll. And that is what N Plus is for you. Come experience and then see how your role is, in, as an L&D, as an L&D leader would would help you, you know, will help you um, make that strategic workforce planning easier, simpler, and better and accurate for you. With better visibility into skills and capabilities, leaders can actually prove and provide insights that can, that can help executives make more informed decisions about talent development, future skill needs, and overall enterprise resilience, which is the need of the hour. Now, let's also look at implications for technology leaders. Technology leaders play a very critical role in championing standardization skill workforce. So when new technologies are introduced, they help define the exact skills required for engineers, administrators, and operational teams. And this ensures that training is aligned with real technical responsibilities and operational success. Okay, so for example, when an organization adopts cloud infrastructure, technology leaders may define the clear framework for roles such as cloud engineer. That is the real change. Okay. And then accordingly, you can align a training platform and consolidate as well. And technology leaders also play an important role in integrating that learning directly into the technology workflow. By working closely with L&D teams, they help embed learning into the real technical environment through hands-on labs, project-based learning, and guided practice during the system implementation, which is very, very crucial. And this ensures that teams develop skills while actually working with the technology. And that is what is important. Finally, there are important implications for executive leaderships as well. Executive needs to start viewing their workforce environment where technologies and business models are constantly evolving, and the skills for the workforce become a key competitive differentiator during the transformation efforts. This also means that taking a strategic approach to learning investment instead of treating training as a short-term expense of an annual budget. It should be like, leaders should support a multi-year learning investment that can build the capabilities required for future growth. So it should not be a quarterly plan or a 6 months plan. It should be an yearly plan focusing on, the step-based learning that when employees develop, you know they align to role one, they should be definitely focusing on role two in the upcoming learning sessions. So that is called as a long-term business strategy organizations should prefer. And that's like they would be better prepared to adapt, to innovate, and also sustain transformation successfully step by step, year by year, and getting their workforce ready for every challenge, every new technology that is entering the market. And another important responsibility for executives is ensuring strong governance and alignment. So when leaders actively sponsor capability building initiatives, it helps establish the clear governance structures and ensures collaborations across business, technology, and the L&D teams as well. And then comes the synthesis and the key messages. Okay. As we wrap up, here are a couple of key takeaways for the enterprise capability building. First, traditional learning models are struggling to keep pace with, rapid technological change. Over the time, organizations end up with fragmented platforms, duplicated content, and learning programs that are difficult to manage and measure effectively. Second, that is the real shift organizations need to make is moving from content focused learning to capability focused development. It's not about how many courses exist or how much training is delivered. It's about whether employees can apply skills effectively into their roles, yes or no. That should be the approach. Now, let me close with the key differentiators we see in high performing enterprises. So these organizations move beyond the traditional training by, implementing the role-based learning pathways and establishing strong development, strong governance frameworks, and most importantly, they create unified approach. They create a unified, understanding, unified visibility into skills across the organization, allowing leaders to clearly understand their workforce capability. And that is the major shift. And that is the strategic learning integration that is known, that is needed. Learning is no longer treated as a separate activity. It is embedded directly into your work. Okay. Now, as a closing reflection, the key message is this: enterprises must focus on building measurable capabilities, not just delivering the training. In today's fast changing environment, success is not defined by the number of courses completed or certifications earned. What truly matters is whether the workforce can demonstrate real skills, perform critical tasks, and support transformation initiatives effectively or not. And as a final thought, the real goal of enterprise learning should be outcome driven capability building, And when learning is role based and focused on measurable outcomes, it directly supports technology adoption and strengthens the operational performance. Employees are not just trained, they are prepared to apply skills in real situations, which helps organizations adapt faster to change. Ultimately, a disciplined, collaborative approach where business leaders, technology teams, and L&D work together, create something much bigger than the training programs. And it builds a future-ready workflows that can, that workforce can actually and continuously evolve with new technologies and challenges. And that is what gives organizations a sustained competitive advantage in a rapidly changing world. And at N Plus, we solve all of these problems for you at one platform. So that's all. Thank you for being a part of this conversation on building capabilities at scale. Your time, insights, and commitment to learning truly matters to N+. Together, by performing and transforming learning into measurable capabilities, we can actually shape future-ready organizations, empowered workforces, and lasting impact. I appreciate your attention and look forward to continuing this journey with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpa. That was very informative. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. If you haven't yet, it's not too late to pop your questions into the question panel. And as we start our Q&A sessions, we're also going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us to know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register. First question is, what is the enterprise upskilling paradox and why does it exist?
Oh, that's a lovely question. So the enterprise upskilling paradox describes, how organizations invest heavily in training and certifications, but still struggle with real workforce capabilities. So this happens because technology evolves faster than the traditional training models, and learning efforts focus on volume instead of the outcomes, and that is the gap. So we need to apply. We have to be job ready with our skills and not just keep that paradox in our mind.
Second question, why does increasing training volume not automatically lead to higher workforce capability?
See, um, that's another good question. That's a very practical question, rather. So more training does not guarantee any capability because, capability is built through structured, role-based and, applied learning. Certifications can validate your knowledge for sure, but real-world performance, hands-on practice, workflow integration, that's making you future ready, and that is what is important.
Next question in the queue, what are the key characteristics of learning chaos in large organizations?
So, okay. So, learning chaos is marked by multiple unintegrated learning platforms. So, duplicate content, inconsistent role-based learning paths, and conflicting skill definitions. Somebody who's asked this question would definitely have been gone through it. So that's why, this question has put up. So these issues actually reduce the engagement. They increase the cost for sure and prevent the leaders from accurately accessing what is the workforce readiness required for that. And that is what is the learning chaos.
And the final question of the day is, how does a capability driven learning approach differ from traditional training models?
Okay, so a capability driven approach focuses on measurable role outcomes rather than, course completion. So learning is organized around mission, critical roles, sequence skill pathways, hands-on practice, and continuous reinforcement of of the topics or the content into the real world, or you can say into their daily workflows. Unlike the episodic modules, units, chapters, or theory that is like very heavy traditional training. So when it comes and when it becomes your day-to-day routine and activity, learning becomes fun. And that is what N Plus does for you.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave this session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today. And if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.